Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelly with the Vintage Hen and Chick, and today I'm sharing 4 trash to treasure thrift flips using beginner decoupage techniques to create budget-friendly DIY home decor. So if you love easy thrift flips, be sure to like and subscribe for more trash to treasure DIY ideas. Now let's get started. For project 1, I have this wood picture frame. I picked this up at a garage sale. It's a little blah looking, but we're gonna give it a makeover and make it look beautiful. So first I'm gonna start by just taking the entire frame apart. It makes it easier when you're painting your frames when you take the glass and the backing out. And I'm gonna start out with Dixie Belle's Silk in the color Prickly Pear, and I'm gonna give the frame 2 good coats of the Prickly Pear. One of the reasons why I'm using the silk paint for the first layer on this frame is because the silk paint has a primer, the paint, and a top coat all built in one. And I'm going to be doing another paint technique on top where I'm going to be distressing, and I don't want the prickly pear to distress back to the wood. So I'll give the frame the 2 coats. We'll let it dry completely in between each coat, and then we'll move on to the next step. My entire frame has gotten 2 coats of the prickly pear. I let it dry completely in between each coat, and I did the front, the sides, and the back of the frame. And now we're going to be taking Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Flamingo, and I'm going to be going over the prickly pear with the Flamingo. And I'm just going to do 1 coat of the Flamingo. And I'm not even really worried about doing a full coverage coat. I just want to get a coat of it on because we're going to be distressing this back so we see that prickly pear beneath the Flamingo. So I'm going to just keep giving 1 kind of messy coat of the Flamingo over the prickly pear. I'll let that dry completely, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now I got my 1 messy coat of Flamingo over the prickly pear, and what I did is I let it dry just about till it was completely dry, and now I'm going to wet distress. So I'm just taking a baby wipe and I am wet distressing the picture frame, and what it's doing is it's taking back some of that Flamingo and showing some of that prickly pear underneath. So I'm going to continue to wet distress the entire frame until I have the look that I want, and then we'll move on to the next step. I am all done wet distressing my frame, and now it's time to seal the frame in. Now remember, we started with the silk in the prickly pear, and that has a built-in top coat, so it doesn't need to be sealed in. But we put the Flamingo chalk paint on top, and that does need to be sealed in. And so I'm gonna give the entire frame 1 good coat of Dixie Belle white wax, and it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to seal in everything that needs to be sealed in, plus it's going to highlight all the beautiful detail on this frame. And so I'm just going to apply one coat of the wax over the front of the frame and the sides. The back I'm just going to leave alone. And then once I have the right amount of wax on that looks good to me, then I'm just going to take a dry paper towel and then buff back any of the excess wax. I want that wax to sit inside of those details of the frame and really highlight that look. So I'm just going to take my paper towel now, wipe back all the excess wax until I have the frame looking exactly how I want it to look. And now it's time to put my frame back together. And for this project, I am using a beautiful piece of decoupage paper by L&J Goods called Late Morning as a piece of art. And so I'm simply putting the decoupage paper inside the frame and putting the back on the frame. And that's it. There's no decoupage techniques used at all in this one. It's a super simple thrift flip where you can make a beautiful piece of custom art for your home. For project 2, I have this double brass picture frame that I picked up at a garage sale. I see these all over the place. And if you see them, pick them up because they are super trendy right now and people love them. And so this one is another easy decoupage project. I am just taking the frame inserts out and I'm taking a piece of mulberry paper that I get on Amazon, and I'll leave that link in the description box below. And I'm taking the back of my frame and cutting out the exact size of mulberry paper for my frame. Once I get that cut out, I'm simply going to decoupage the mulberry paper right on to the frame insert. And this is going to give a nice backdrop for the piece of rice paper that I'm going to be putting on top of that. So I have my pieces of mulberry paper completely cut out, and now I'm going to decoupage it right onto the frame insert. And I'm going to be using my Dixie Belle clear coat in the satin finish. And this is a small area, so it's easy to do. I'm just going to apply one coat of the satin finish over the entire piece of cardboard and then lay my mulberry paper down. I'm going to smooth it out with my fingers, and then I'm going to go on top of the mulberry paper with my brush, smoothing out any wrinkles that might be there, sealing it in nicely, and just making sure that it's nice and adhered to my bottom piece from the frame. Both of my frame inserts have completely dried, and now I'm going to be decoupaging a piece of rice paper right on top of that mulberry paper. And I'm using this beautiful piece of hummingbird rice paper that is available on my website. It has 4 designs on each sheet, so it's a real bargain. And I'm just going to cut out the 2 pieces that I'm going to use for my 2 frame sides. And I'm going to cut them out just right around the edge with a nice clean sharp edge from the scissors. And then I'm going to decoupage these pieces of rice paper right on top of the mulberry paper that I've already done. Now I did let the mulberry paper completely dry, and I love the look that it gave the frame insert with that mulberry paper on there. It looks very vintage and very old-timey. So with this rice paper, I'm just laying down a layer of my clear coat, and then I'm gonna lay my rice paper on top of that. I'm gonna do one side at a time, lay it down, lay my rice paper on top, and then smooth everything out with my brush. And once I have that done, I'll go over the entire top of both sides of the frame, make sure everything is sealed in and there are no wrinkles or bubbles in my rice paper. Everything has completely dried, and now it's time to put the frame back together. And all you have to do is slide your frame insert into your frame, and then it's done. It's such a simple project with not a lot of investment required and not a lot of steps. But the outcome is a beautiful piece of vintage home decor that you would be proud to display anywhere. For project 3, this is another super simple but really cute project. I am just taking a pasta jar that I saved because I liked the shape of it, and I'm going to be using the Dixie Belle silk in the prickly pear again. And so I'm just going to give my pasta jar 2 good coats of the silk over the entire jar, the bottom and the sides, and even around the rim on the top. And I'm going to let each coat dry completely in between. And then once that's dry, then we're going to move on to the next step. I gave my jar 2 coats of the prickly pear and I let it dry completely. And now we're going to do a super fun technique to the jar. I am going to take the Dixie Belle Flamingo chalk paint and I'm going to put it around the rim of the jar, around the base of the jar, and any areas that are raised. There's some lettering that's raised up by the top of the jar. I'm going to put it there as well. And I'm going to put kind of a heavy coat on there. And then I'm going to take my mister bottle and I'm going to spray that wet paint. And we're just going to mist it and just let it run and let it drip and let it land where it's going to land. So I'm going to go around the rim, around the base of the jar, and then anywhere where there is some raised lettering. We're going to just add the paint and then mist with the bottle and then just let it run and let it drip where it's going to go. So we come up with an organic, distressed, very unique, one-of-a-kind look. And once I have that all done, then I'm gonna let the jar completely dry, and then we're gonna move on to the next step. Okay, so the jar is completely dry. I love the look of the drippy flamingo paint over the prickly pear. But now we're going to embellish the jar one step further, and I'm going to be using a piece of this adorable rice paper by Connie Lines and Designs called Bluebird Delight. And I just cut out a piece that would fit on one side of my jar, and we're just going to decoupage this right onto the jar. And I'm going to be using my Dixie Belle clear coat in the satin finish, which is my favorite decoupage medium. And I'm just going to add one good coat of the clear coat where I'm going to be laying the rice paper down, and then simply just lay the rice paper down on top of the clear coat. And then I'm going to use my brush and any excess clear coat that I have left on my brush, and we're going to smooth over the rice paper. And this is going to seal the rice paper to the jar. It's going to smooth out any bubbles or wrinkles that are in the rice paper. And then I'm going to go over the entire jar, sealing everything in with the satin clear coat. And then once that is done, then this project is complete. For project 4, this is another super simple but super cute project. I have this really adorable sunflower picture frame. I think I got this at a garage sale. It's been in my stash for a long time. And so I'm just going to take out the insert of the frame, and I'm going to use that paper insert of the frame as the place where I'm going to be decoupaging my rice paper on. And I'm going to be using a couple of pieces of this beautiful rice paper called Sunflower Journaling. And as you can see, there's lots of different pieces and options on this rice paper, lots of different projects you can do. I'm going to use 2 pieces from this sheet for this project. Super simple little project I'm going to do with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to decoupage one piece of the rice paper kind of on top of the other. And so I'm going to use the little insert that was in the frame as my guide and trace out the exact sizes that I need for the project. The piece of rice paper with all the small sunflowers is going to be my base piece. And then the second piece, I'm going to be using the wet paintbrush method to cut that out around the outside edge of the larger sunflowers because I want an organic look there. And I'm going to layer that on top of the first piece of sunflower rice paper. So I'll just dip my paintbrush in some water, kind of mark my outline where I want to tear the rice paper. And then once it's wet, it makes the rice paper really easy to tear. And it also gives you a kind of organic, rustic look and not such a clean edge that just cutting it with the scissors will do. So I'm going to tear this off and then we're going to move on to the next step. The next step is to simply decoupage both pieces of rice paper to the frame insert with my Dixie Belle satin clear coat. And so I'm going to start first with the piece with all the small sunflowers on there. And I'm going to add a layer of clear coat to my cardboard insert and then lay the first piece of rice paper down, smoothing it out with my hands and then going over the top of it with my brush. And then I'm going to take the second piece that I did the wet paintbrush method on, give it that kind of organic edge, and I'm going to lay that on top of the first piece and decoupage that down, doing the same thing, putting a coat of the satin clear coat down, laying that little piece of rice paper down, and then going over everything with my brush, sealing everything in, making sure there are no wrinkles or bubbles in the piece of decoupage paper. Everything has dried completely, and now it's time to put this sweet little piece of mixed media sunflower decoupage paper back inside the frame. So I'm just going to lay it in the frame, attach the back together, and then this adorable piece of sunflower artwork is complete. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed these beginner decoupage thrift flips, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know which project you'd try first. I'll see you next week for more Trash to Treasure DIY ideas. Thank you again for watching, and have a wonderful day.